The hospital room was a cavern of cold silence, pierced only by the relentless beep of machines and the soft rustling of sterile sheets. Mara sat motionless beside her mother's bed, clutching a faded photograph that trembled in her hands. The image captured a moment from years ago, a radiant woman laughing in the sun, arms wrapped tightly around a little girl whose eyes sparkled with hope. That little girl was Mara, and the woman was her mother, the same mother now slipping away beneath the pallor of illness. The light overhead flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch across the walls and into Mara's heart. Her breathing was shallow as she stared down at the frail chest rising and falling so weakly it seemed like it might stop at any moment. The scent of antiseptic hung thick in the air, mingling with the faint fragrance of lilies resting in a vase, a feeble attempt to bring life into sterility. Mara's mind raced wildly, trying to grasp at something solid amid the chaos of pain and uncertainty. She remembered the songs they used to sing together, hopeful hymns echoing through sunlit church halls, promises of peace and salvation. But here, in this room where suffering clung like a heavy shroud, those melodies felt distant, hollow. Her faith, once bright and sure, now felt fragile, like a candle struggling against a storm. She closed her eyes and whispered into the quiet, "Why are you silent now? Where are you when we suffer?" No answer came but the mechanical beat marking time, counting down moments she wished she could stop. Weeks earlier, Mara had found herself wandering in the pouring rain outside their small town's church. The storm was fierce, thunder rattling windows and lightning splitting the sky, mirroring the tempest raging inside her soul. She sat alone on the cold stone steps beneath stained glass windows painted with vivid scenes of redemption and grace. The colours blurred as tears mingled with raindrops streaming down her face. She recalled her mother's favourite passage from Psalm 34:18. "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." But how could that be true when her heart was crushing under grief? How could God be near when all she felt was abandonment? Her prayers during those days were empty words uttered into a void, bouncing off cold stone walls without echo or answer. The silence was deafening, deepening the wounds she tried desperately to hide. One night, after another long day filled with whispered fears and harsh realities, Mara fell into a restless sleep. In her dream, she found herself in a garden unlike any she had ever seen. It was bathed in golden light, alive with vibrant colours and sweet scents of blooming flowers. In the centre stood a magnificent tree, heavy with fruit glowing softly as if lit from within. Drawn to it, Mara reached out and touched one of the fruits. Warmth spread through her fingers and up her arm, a comforting fire that eased her aching heart. She heard a gentle voice whispering promises of healing and hope, though no words formed. Instead, she felt the embrace of grace itself. When she awoke, the memory of that dream clung to her like a lifeline. Yet reality was relentless. Her mother's condition worsened with each passing day. Doctors spoke in hushed tone that Mara's ears refused to hear fully. The inevitable loomed closer like a shadow stretching across their lives. In moments of overwhelming despair, Mara sought refuge in a small chapel tucked away near the hospital. The scent of burning incense mingled with cool stone air as soft candlelight flickered across ancient walls. She knelt before an altar adorned with simple crosses and worn hymnals. "God," she whispered through tears, "if you are there, show me." Silence met her plea. Her anguish deepened as days wore on. She grappled with opposing forces within herself. Grace battling guilt over feelings of anger and doubt, faith wrestling with silence, hope struggling against shame. One afternoon, a nurse approached quietly and handed Mara a folded letter found among her mother's belongings. With trembling hands, she unfolded it and read words penned years before. "My dear Mara, if you find this, know that even in darkness there is light. Forgiveness is our greatest strength." The letter revealed secrets Mara had never known, pains her mother bore silently, hopes she held fiercely, and an enduring faith that transcended suffering. Tears blurred the ink as Mara realized grace was not perfection, but messy love that held even broken hearts. Outside, the storm finally broke, rain washing over earth and sky like baptismal waters renewing what seemed lost. Mara stepped into the rain, feeling cold droplets on her face but also a strange warmth rising within her chest, a fragile hope awakening amid sorrow. Her mother passed quietly one night, surrounded by love and peace that spoke louder than any words. Mara carried both grief and light, a faith reborn not through answers but through presence. She learned that God's silence was not absence but invitation, to lean deeper into mystery and hold fast even when everything else falls away. Years later, Mara would return to that chapel, sitting among flickering candles and worn pews, the scent of incense still lingering like a sacred breath. She whispered a prayer not for answers but for courage, to walk through shadowed valleys with heart open wide, because faith is not a shield from pain but a hand held steady in storms. Mara's reflection stared back at her from the hospital window pane, a pale face framed by strands of damp hair clinging to her cheeks. Outside, rain blurred the world into smudged colours and shadows. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass, wishing she could press away the ache inside her chest too. Days melted together in a haze of whispered conversations between doctors and nurses, words like progress, hope, and uncertainty tossed around in sterile rooms where emotions were supposed to stay locked away but never did. She remembered how once her mother's laughter filled these halls, a sound like sunlight dancing through leaves. Now silence reigned supreme. Mara's fingers traced invisible patterns on the window as memories flooded back. Sunday mornings filled with hymns that lifted her young spirit, bedtime prayers whispered under starry skies, promises made by a God who always seemed near. But now those promises felt distant, like echoes from another life. One evening, as twilight bled into night, Mara found herself drawn back to that same chapel where she first sought refuge. The candles flickered weakly against stained glass windows painted with saints whose eyes seemed to follow her every move. She sank onto an ancient wooden pew worn smooth by generations of worshippers. The scent of incense wrapped around her, a fragrant reminder that faith had never truly left this place even if she had strayed. Her thoughts spiraled between doubt and desperate hope. Could God be silent yet still present? Could love endure when prayers seemed unheard? A soft voice from behind startled Mara out of her trance. It was Father Elias, an elder priest whose gentle eyes held decades of wisdom. Faith, he said quietly, is sometimes about holding on when you feel most alone. She nodded, but could only offer a hollow smile. Father Elias continued, "It is in our brokenness that grace finds room to grow." Mara thought about all she'd lost and all she still feared losing. Yet somewhere beneath layers of grief was a seed waiting to bloom. Days later, Mara discovered another letter hidden beneath a loose floorboard at home, a note from her mother written decades earlier but never shared until now. "Dear Mara," it began softly, "I know life will bring storms darker than you can imagine. But remember this, even in the fiercest storms, there is light beyond the clouds waiting to break through." As Mara read those words aloud in empty rooms once filled with laughter, tears streamed freely, not just of sorrow, but of release. In that moment, something shifted inside, faith cracked open again like fragile ice giving way to spring waters. Months passed, the seasons changed. Mara embraced both loss and renewal as intertwined threads weaving a tapestry richer than she ever expected. One crisp morning beneath skies painted soft pink by dawn, Mara walked barefoot through dew-soaked grass outside her childhood home. The cold earth touched her skin as grounding her in present reality, a reminder that life continues despite pain. She whispered prayers not for miracles but for strength, to live fully amidst uncertainty, to love fiercely amid heartbreak, to believe fiercely even when answers evade grasp. Her journey was messy, filled with doubts revisited like old wounds, but undeniably real. She stood at the edge of grief, not defeated but transformed, carrying scars like badges of resilience and hope. Her story wasn't finished, it was just beginning. If this story found its way to your heart today, if it sparked even a flicker of hope or courage, don't keep it locked inside. Share your own journey below. Let us walk together through shadows toward light. Subscribe now and join our community committed to stories that bleed truth and heal wounds. Stories that refuse quiet suffering or ordinary faith. This is only the beginning. Are you ready? Don't blink. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3.